In this video, we'll take a look at the JavaScript that is used in the JavaScript chart event. So let's go now and configure a new JavaScript chart, and we'll choose a basic sample chart over there, and then we'll go ahead and click OK. So if we look over here at the JavaScript that got returned by the Genie over here, we can see that there's a settings object over here that essentially defines what the chart is going to look like. So the setting object specifies the name of a div where the chart will appear, and we're using a special placeholder, chart div, which will basically point to this control in the UX component. Then here's the actual data that is going to be displayed in the chart, and then here are the properties of this chart in a options object. So the options that are shown over here are a small subset of the available options. So all of the available options can be seen by going to the documentation for the RNet graph charting library, but you can basically also get a quick preview of some of the properties that you could use by bringing up this little dialog over here. So this shows some of the available properties that you could use inside this options object over here. Now, not every property shown in this pop-up is applicable to the particular type of chart that you've selected. So in this case, we have a bar graph, but it certainly gives you a sense of what might be possible. So now we can see that the settings themselves are returned by this function called underbar settings. So underbar settings is a JavaScript function that returns an object. So you can see here in the chart itself, we are basically basing the chart on the result of this underbar settings function. So the underbar settings function defined over here is called, and it returns this settings object which has all of the settings for the chart. And the reason for doing this indirection, but not having the settings object directly over here, is that by making this a function call, we can dynamically change the properties of settings at runtime. So we can make data the result of a JavaScript function call, for example, or we can make data the result of a data series, etc. So the basic pattern, though, is always the same. It's a JavaScript function that returns a settings object, and then a call to the rgraph library to actually draw the chart, either using a draw method or using maybe a grow method, or if we wanted animation, etc., using the properties that are defined over here. And then after the chart is drawn, we store certain properties in an object called underbar.js charts inside the UX component. And the reason that we store these properties in this object over here is so that we can redraw the chart if necessary after the chart has been resized, or after the data has been refreshed, etc. But in this case, we have a simple chart that is based actually on only one subchart, but charts can be more complex. So for example, if we go to this chart over here, the combo chart, this chart is actually based on three separate charts. We have a pie chart, a line chart, and a bar chart, all being displayed in this as part of the chart. If we look at the JavaScript for this, we can see that in this case we have a much more complex example. So we actually have, if we look over here all the way at the bottom, we can see that the settings are based on three individual settings functions, and the object itself is based on three different objects, bar, line, and pie. So if we go back to the top over here, we can see settings 1 is going to define the properties for the bar chart, and then settings 2 over here is going to define the properties for the line chart, and then settings 3 defines the property for the pie chart. So in this case, the chart itself is much more complex because it's based on three different subcharts. Thanks very much for watching.